everybody. This is Margie Meacham, founder of LearningBinge and Learning to Go, and also the author of Brain Matters, How to Help Anyone Learn Anything Using Neuroscience. And in this issue of the Brain Matters podcast, my guest is Trish O'Connor, who is the owner of Epiclesis Consulting, LLC. Now, as we all know from neuroscience, there's a powerful urge towards spirituality and finding meaning today. And in fact, even in folks who may not consider themselves to be particularly religious or spiritual, we can see the part of the brain that is hardwired to seek out a spiritual experience. And so this hardwiring, it helps enrich our lives and bring out the best version of ourselves. So I'm really thrilled to have Trish O'Connor here today. As I said, she is the owner of her own business, Epiclesis Consulting, and maybe she'll tell us a little bit about that name. And they provide products and services that enhance communication about issues related to a person's sense of ultimate meaning, including editorial services, ghostwriting, writing aids, and spiritual retreats. She holds a BA from the University of Notre Dame in South Bend and a Master of Divinity from Aquinas Institute in St. Louis, Missouri. Before starting her own business, she also worked in both nonprofit and corporate settings in a variety of related roles. So, Chris, I want to welcome you, and let's get right to it. As I was researching your business, I found that you have really got a wide range of activities, from editing books to presenting retreats. What would you say ties them all together?
Well, my slogan is enhancing spiritual communication. And so everything I do in some way helps people articulate what gives their life ultimate meaning. And really, that's a good definition of spirituality. People hear that term spirituality and they think it's about religion. But as you said a moment ago, it is really a fundamental quality of human nature to seek ultimate meaning in life.
You know, I so agree with that. And I'm sorry, please keep your thought. I just couldn't help but jump in, because so many of the learning professionals that I work with are just beginning to recognize that there is indeed a self-fulfillment quality to their work that even in a business setting, you cannot completely ignore that spiritual sense of ourselves, which is why we're seeing such an upsurge in programs like mindfulness and meditation, because those are other pathways to this same spirituality that you're talking about. Do you see a connection there?
Absolutely. In fact, one of the services I provide, which sometimes surprises people, given that I have so much of a ministry and theological background, I give small business critiques. And I don't do it just from the standpoint of, is your business making money? The first question I always ask clients for that critique is, what are the reasons why you founded your business? Because of course, financial motives are always involved, but it also in some way tends to be tied to their sense of ultimate meaning. And that's the angle that I take in helping them figure out if their small business is actually fulfilling the purposes for which it was founded. And that very much is tied to that idea of enhancing spiritual communication in people's lives. And so in addition to, we mentioned retreats, small business critiques, I edit books. Usually about some kind of spiritual, but not necessarily religious content. And I sell journal prompts and writing exercises. I even write marketing copy sometimes, because as you say, even someone's business can be a part of their spirituality. It's all from an angle of expressing meaning. And of course, I'm excited, and we'll talk later about a new venture that I'm part of, LearningBinge.com. where I'm one of the founding instructors, and that will be online courses for people who communicate with others, either for a living or as part of their sense of purpose.
Oh yeah, we will definitely get to that. But let me ask you a little bit about this publishing, writing. as a pathway to meaning, because I have a theory. I've worked in the learning professional space, which includes the people who are listening to our conversation today: teachers, instructional designers, course developers, training managers, and even just business leaders who see themselves primarily as educators for their team. And I have a suspicion that when you work in that kind of a field, each of us has at least one really good book inside of us. There is a book, there is a message, there is a belief or a best practice that a lot of the people listening to you today have been thinking about, and they haven't been able to get it out. Now, you know that I recently self-published my first book, and now I've got a couple more out or in the works. And I was wondering, what does self-publication do to the opportunity, first of all, for these folks to get their message out, but also has it changed the approach you take as an editor?
Absolutely. When I first started on a part-time basis doing some freelance book editing, I worked entirely with publishers. And I still do a little of that and I enjoy it, but working directly with an author is different. And in some ways, I find it more satisfying than working with a publisher and being a little bit at arm's length from that expression of meaning that the author is doing. Self-publication has really changed the publishing landscape. And it's often not as focused on profit, which is good because self-publication often is not profitable to the same degree that many books for a publishing house are expected to be. It is self-expression. And so in some cases, it may be profitable. In many other cases, it may actually cost money to the author to be self-published, and it is worth it to them. That does not mean their book is a failure. And as an editor, I'm helping them make that self-expression the best it can be, focused at whatever their audience may be, however small that audience may happen to be. And for many self-published works, they're in a very specific niche. And I can help them to think in terms of what's going to be important to the people in that niche. And in a way, they're writing for themselves. It really is much more of a spiritual exercise.
You know, I think that's a very interesting take on the writing life and the writing process. And actually, my bachelor's is in English. And when I think about great writers of the past, while they certainly needed to live, very many of them did not really make their living from their books, because that can be a real challenge to even a well-respected writer. So I think that's important for the folks who are listening and say, well, I might have a book in me, but I don't know if it'll make money. That's really not the point. I can say from my own experience, I actually do make money on my books, but that isn't the way I started it. So I totally agree with you.
And really, my own self-published books, I do not expect that I'm ever going to make my living entirely off of, say, journal prompts and creative writing exercises. That these are part of my self-expression as a way of finding meaning in my own life, helping other people improve their writing skills. And the fact that we're in a publishing environment now where I could self-publish those has been very liberating.
Okay, so now help me with this. So I get all of that, and I think that is a really creative approach to bringing out the best version of ourselves, which is something I encourage everyone to do. But it would seem that all of this work about communication and editing and the business really of publishing would be quite a bit different than leading an event, a meeting, a retreat of some sort. So do those two roles fit better together than what I'm seeing on the surface?
Yes, there is a certain fit, and not that every person has a skill set that overlaps both of those activities. Many People who are good editors would not be good at being a retreat presenter and vice versa. But there also is a relationship between the two that I think makes it not entirely surprising that there are some of us whose skills overlap, uh, in that they both focus on that broad sense of spirituality that I was talking about earlier, of articulating a sense of ultimate meaning in one's life. And so, as an editor, I am taking an author by the hand and guiding them in their self expression in their book so that it gets in touch with what they want to say about what life's about. When I lead a retreat, I am not doing it by making little marks on paper, but I am in the same way. I am taking someone by the hand and guiding them in their reflections so that they can, at some level, find words for what is important in their life at that time.
Okay, thanks. That was really helpful. So let's say that someone has been listening and said, you know what, I think maybe it is time. I am going to get serious about that book that's in my desk drawer, in my head, or, but not out yet to the world. So if you could tell those folks one thing, what would it be?
I would say don't focus just on writing as an act or as a verb. Think of a writer as the person you are. And if you do that, then you will find yourself going into your writing as a spiritual exercise. And instead of getting bogged down in the mechanics, which you can hire people like me to help you with, you can focus on the part that only you can do, which is to get in touch with that piece of meaning that you are the only person in the universe who has.
That is great advice for everyone. And I think it really connects with, as an instructional designer, and a lot of the folks listening, they're either instructional designers. So kind of like the editor or a retreat leader, they're the person who builds the training or the ones who deliver it, or both. And I bet a lot of those folks don't think of themselves as writers primarily, but that is exactly what we do in the field. So really an interesting take. I want to thank you for that. So now we're at the point where I'm going to ask two questions I ask every guest on the program. The first one is, what are you most excited about right now?
Well, I would say there are two things that are kind of neck and neck for me. One,
Okay.
I am a founding member, as you know, at the new site, LearningBinge.com, which is just getting up and running, but I already have a couple of my own courses up and running that people could enroll in right now if they wish on writing at this point. But I also, down the road, will be having some courses on their related, not necessarily to writing in the sense of writing for other people, but journal writing. Right now, the course I have up there is related more to the kind of daily writing a person might do so that they will sharpen their skills and will do a better job when they have a project to work on. But I'm looking forward to exploring different ways of supporting writers through that site, and may be able to even give some virtual retreats through LearningBinge. So I think that that's just a really exciting new venture that I'm happy to be a part of, and very proud of being one of the first to get a course up and running there. The introductory course is free. People can try it out before they decide what they would like to invest in next. And at the same time, I am working on something that is in the more explicitly religious part of my work, which is a children's program intended for, like, say, a few days in the summer at churches. And so it's very similar to Vacation Bible School. And I'm really looking forward to getting that out on the market. It's been something I've worked with in the past at other times in my career, and now I'm wanting to get it into shape so that it can be useful to people at other churches, hopefully around the country. So those are probably the two biggest things I have going on right now.
Okay, those are definitely pretty big. Just a little plug for journal writing. From a learning science point of view, it's an extremely powerful way to learn any new skill or behavior, and often overlooked in today's digital world. But some of the most successful people in any field have been lifelong journal keepers. And by that, we really mean handwriting. It makes a difference to your brain. So I recommend that everybody keep a journal and use it as a learning tool, because that's really the reflective part of learning, is something in this busy world we often miss. So I'm right with you there that journaling is a very powerful skill that we should all develop. So I can't wait to see that course. Now, let me ask you also, the next question is, how can someone get in touch with you?
The best way is to go to my website, which is epiclesisconsulting.com. And I understand that you'll be having a link on your site to
Mm-hmm.
that.
Absolutely.
And I have a contact form, but you can learn a lot about me and my business simply by browsing the website. Uh, and you'll see things there about my editorial services, about the various retreats that I offer, and my shop where you can buy things like journal prompts and writing exercises. Um, but also, I am on Facebook. I have a Facebook page as Epiclesis Consulting, and I am on YouTube. I actually have two different YouTube channels. The one that has mostly things related to the publishing industry is called the Epiclesis Consulting channel. The other channel is called Retreat Preacher. And obviously, that's more related to the retreat part of my work. So I wanted to separate those on YouTube because they can be very different audiences. But of course, just as there's overlap in my skill set to be able to do both, there is a certain amount of overlap that people may be interested in both parts of that in me. And if so, they're welcome to hit both of those channels. And I'm looking forward to getting more active on both of those soon.
Oh, absolutely. And of course, one reason why there's a certain amount of overlap is because there's overlap in our brains in terms of processing those language and spirituality. So I'm not surprised that you've recognized it in yourself and that your audience is recognizing it, and hopefully our audience as well. So, Trish, it's been a delight talking to you, and thank you so much for joining, first of all, for taking the brave step of being a founding member of LearningBinge. And we're continually adding to that content. So by the time you guys hear this, we may very well have even more that you can get from Trish and other founding members and myself. And I also want to just wish you all the best with all of this interesting work. And we'll certainly catch up with you soon. So everybody, her contact information is available on our LearningToGo.info site. And we look forward to hearing more from you in the future, Trish. Thanks so much for coming by.
Thank you.